Hey everyone, Mr. Santo here, and finally after being able to get the PlayStation 5, I welcome you to the review of Demon Souls.
Babe, I thought I didn't let you buy Demon Souls because it was too violent.
I welcome you to the review of Yakuza, Like a Dragon.
That's better.
Before starting, please do not forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now let's go on with the review. Yakuza Like a Dragon is the 8th mainline game in the Yakuza series published from Sega, which loosely includes a series of spin-offs like The Loved Judgment and Fist of the Northern Star, also known as Okuto no Ken overseas. The Japanese crime action drama Yakuza this time around sets a big departure in the way of its combat, making this game the first turn-based role-playing game in the series. I have to admit, the combination of old-school RPG mechanics within the Yakuza world fits as peanut butter and jelly.
Yes.
But more on that later. Like a Dragon also features a brand new main character in Ichiban Kasuga, which effectively replaces Kiryu Kazuma, in a choice which initially may seem polarizing, but it was made to justify the all-around craziness. You see, Ichiban himself is a big fan of old-school role-playing games, and even specifically tells several people about his love of the Dragon Quest series. And when a friend asks him why he seemed to allow his enemies to hit him, he replies by saying that every time he fights, he imagines himself as a hero. Additionally, he uses his imagination during the fight, so as we experience everything through his eyes, he becomes an unreliable narrator, imagining all sorts of over-the-top stuff happening during the fights. As I mentioned earlier, Ichiban is the new protagonist and he's absolutely wonderful in his role.
I'm the man. I am the man.
The story of Like a Dragon starts with Ichiban finding himself in a situation of taking the fall for a crime he didn't commit. He proudly helps his small Yakuza family patriarch, and after spending several years in prison, he finally gets out to find out a lot has changed. Not only in the world around him, but also in the structure of the criminal underworld as well, making him a fish out of the water in various scenarios. And it even gets worse when he gets shot and is left for dead by his former employer.
Traitor!
As it is usual for Yakuza, the game has a ton of dialogue which will not surprise you if you are already familiar with the series. But it may be too much for some newcomers. Going back to the combat system, the way that it is implemented here is dense and with a ton of commands available, which somehow reflects standard tropes seen a million times before in a fresh new light. A bit like a modern era Earthbound, with a sprinkle of Chrono Trigger when it comes to dual and team attacks, and even Final Fantasy when it summons. Among all the craziness, the first time I saw Ichiban pulling out his phone to call a friend, I downright exploded in laughter when he announced that he summoned it. It wasn't just funny, but it works within its own canon and unreliable lore. The list of summons available is over a dozen and ranges from crazy to batshit crazy. Where else can you see a mob boss dressed like a baby, a lobster, a masochist, and a soup kitchen cook all in the same list, if not in Yakuza? Normal jobs function as more RPG standards fantasy jobs, and you are able to swap them out at your pleasure. You can change your office clerk to idol, for example, and respectively they work in the same way a martial artist and a healer are. Combat is great, but unfortunately it's not perfect. Characters constantly move around and can block or miss depending on where they move. Sometimes your perfect attack gets shut down by pure chance. I wish there was more control on that. A last complaint about the game is that sometimes it's too easy, and if you get better gear and weapons, you start losing any type of challenge. And I found that out when I learned about the business management minigame. I absolutely love the business management minigame. In this mode, you get to play as the president of a holding, which has the goal of becoming the #1 company in Yokohama. And I can say it was addictive as hell. I probably spent almost 10 hours on that minigame alone.
Babe, stop playing that minigame and come to sleep.
Oh, and did I mention that a financially savvy rooster works in my company, serve on the board of directors, and you can even summon him in combat eventually? Every 4 business cycles you have to verbally fight against shareholders, and you have apologies as special attacks. For as good as the mod was, it did have the problem of giving you too much money, pretty much breaking the economy of the game if you dedicate your efforts into it when you discover it. If the game stopped here, it would be still great. But as most other titles in the series, it has an almost endless array of other minigames. There are so many that I'm sure I'm forgetting some.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
You have Dragon Kart, a sort of full-fledged Mario Kart ripoff, which offers kart customizations, different unlockables, and several tournaments with different trucks, available in different time of the day as well. There is a staple like karaoke, darts, a host club where you can improve the bond with your male companions. You can enter different Sega arcades parlor where you will find Sega classics like Phantasy Star, Outrun, Super Hang-On, Space Harrier, Virtua Fight 2 and 5, which, by the way, is an amazing game to have on its own. And also, what kind of arcade would it be without a claw machine? And if that is not enough, you can collect cans on your bike or hilariously try to watch a movie without falling asleep in a whack-a-mole-like game that features goat men in suits. You can also improve bond with the other party roster by having a drink with them, which also dives deep into their background and current issues. You can also improve bond by letting banter flow when often initiates. Additionally, you can improve your own secondary stats by taking exams in a vocational school, and those questions are definitely not easy. Is that enough, Yakuza? No? It's not? Okay. Give me more. So you can play different versions of Mahjong, classic Japanese games such as Koi Koi, Ochukabu, Shogi. Lastly, you also have slots with hilarious knockoffs versions of Hokuto no Ken and the Lion King. You can also collect bugs, Tojo Clan Crest, rescue lost cats, and help people requesting your help through an app on your phone. The game is outstanding and absolutely worth your money if you plan to buy it. Or, if you like me, you got it for Christmas.
You're welcome, baby.
If you have watched this far, thank you very much for doing that, and I'll see you on my next video. Cheers!